ruthless beyond the records of history, engulfs the world. In the deserts of northern Africa and in the steaming jungles of New Guinea, on the land, on the sea, and in the air, Australian men are fighting the fight for freedom. They battle for a cause that slowly, but inevitably, is moving towards the final victory. In their hearts flames anew the unconquerable spirit and unity of purpose of their fathers who stormed the heights at Gallipoli a quarter of a century ago. As they fight and die, these men who are our comrades call for more guns, more planes, more shells, more bombs. These must be the spearhead of that final effort for which we are gathering strength. The effort which will sweep the enemy from the skies, from the seas, and from the conquered territories in two hemispheres. Total war, the real thing. But we, too, are at action stations. In Australia, a new page of history has been turned. Wheat fields yield a different crop. Whole towns spring into being. New factories belch smoke into the sky as production reaches ever higher levels. You who work in our factories, in your tens of thousands, have helped turn this country into a miracle land of industry. You have done a grand job. So too have the men who keep open the sea lanes. Behind the metal you use in your daily job may lie a story of dauntless heroism. Much of our raw material must still come from overseas, and the men of the Merchant Navy well know the screaming sirens of the Stuka dive bomber and the menace of the lurking submarine. Too many die at their jobs. Even in Australia, transportation is a task requiring superhuman effort. To shift even a ton of material unnecessarily reduces our ability to get the job done. In this fight, there must be ruthless war against things other than the enemy at our gate. War against waste, waste of time, of money, of effort, and against waste of waste. In factories, there is the greatest scope for reclamation and saving. Metal scrap, for example, if true to specification, can be reclaimed and reused in munitions work, thus saving not only metal, but time, expense, and even lives. If saving metal means saving lives, surely that is a task which each and every one of us will gladly share. And it means just that. But saving scrap is not enough. It must be kept clean. This is of vital importance, for where waste is not carefully sorted, the remelted metal may contain dangerous impurities. It may even be rendered unsuitable for further use in munitions. And that at a time when everything we use is so urgently needed. Careless sorting may even have far-reaching consequences. Here is a story of the results of careless handling of waste material. Somewhere in a factory, a hand threw aside a piece of steel which landed in a heap of brass swarf. In the charge room, where metal was being weighed to complete the charge for the furnace, the piece of steel was not detected. Among the swarf, trimmings, and ingot used, the piece of steel went into the furnace. Poured from the crucible, the steel became lost in the billet, from which brass rod was to be extruded. Then the billet was sent to the extrusion press. Embedded in the rod coming from the press, the piece of steel was not detected, despite the care of chemists, who test for breaking stresses and impurity is normally to be expected. To find this piece of steel would require minute examination of the rod. Here, where valuable tools were being used, the rod was being turned. And then, suddenly, disaster. The tool struck the piece of steel and was broken and smashed. Production was stopped. Men were idle. Time was wasted because somebody, somewhere, was careless. Today, scrap represents a large proportion of our supplies of raw material. Here, in a typical factory, is the ferrous section of a salvage organization. Steel swarf is being chipped, preliminary to its return to the furnaces. With non-ferrous metals, the greatest care is exercised. Bins, so important in this task of proper segregation, are clearly marked and labeled. It is your job to see that into these bins goes scrap from your lathe or other machine, but only scrap, true to the label on the bin, and nothing else. Mixed scrap may depreciate by as much as 80%, may even be of no further value. This source of waste must be stopped. You can help by following a few simple rules. 1, see that each type of waste is carefully segregated. 2, avoid contamination of scrap. 3, discard nothing that is capable of further use. Scrap bins are not rubbish bins. This bad example holds valuable copper borings, mixed with food scraps, banana skins, cigarette butts, paper, and other refuse. You and I need the copper, even the milk bottle, but not in the same scrap bin. Paper, too, is in short supply. If kept clean, it can be reused. Bins are provided for food, others for paper. Keep them separate. Stop! That rag is valuable. Impregnated with metal, it cannot be reclaimed, but clear from impurities, it can be washed and reused. There must in all factories be 3 main objectives. 1, still greater production. 2, conservation of material. 3, proper segregation of all scrap for eventual reuse in the war effort. These are the things which are asked of us all. The Minister for Munitions, the Honorable Norman Makin.
If we, that is all of us, are prepared to observe a few simple principles in saving, we can provide for Australia veritable mines above ground, mines of production. We can afford to industry that which is a direct saving, namely to industry the wastage from industry. This is your task. It is our task, and is in complete sympathy with the appeal of the Prime Minister for austerity in everything. The enemy is learning the power of free peoples. In the great days that are ahead, we must have great efficiency in concentration, so that the full resources of this nation can be used to the very best advantage. In this way, we shall determine for ourselves our own way of living. The age-old adage, waste not, want not, is one of the most positive signs on the road to victory.